Okay, hello there. Mic check. Can you hear me, Brian?
I hear you great. How are you, Andy?
Yeah, great, great, awesome. Hey, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to our viewers. Today, well, over here, it's Thursday, the 20th of June, 2024. We have an exciting episode ahead. You know, uh, we're going to get Brian to share with us what he thinks is happening in the market. Bitcoin's at what, 65 now, 65,000.
Yep.
So how are things, Brian? How are you doing?
Yeah, things are good. It's been a kind of a decline for once in crypto, so a lot of people are showing some signs of fear at the moment, and we're just trying to keep up with all of the mood fluctuations from the crowd.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, 65,000, some people yeah, as you mentioned that there's a lot of fear, but it's not so bad 65,000, is it? I mean,
Well,
mm,
the the fear around Bitcoin is somewhat tempered, but it's the altcoins that have really flushed. So the people that got greedy and got a bunch of meme coins and AI and big data and stuff like that,
yeah.
real world assets, those are the ones that are really declining pretty aggressively over the past 2 months or so in particular. So even though Bitcoin looks okay, the overall crypto market cap has actually flushed more than it may appear.
Okay, okay. Well, let's jump into it. It's interesting because when you know the Bitcoin dominance is still around 54 or 55% of total market cap. And it's interesting because every time Bitcoin drops a little bit, it's the alts that usually follow suit, and they drop by a much higher percentage than Bitcoin would. And
Yeah, exactly.
obviously the inverse is true.
Yeah, very much. There's a lot of uh, confusion going on right now. I guess earlier today, altcoins were actually doing quite well while Bitcoin was flat, but that's kind of calmed down as it predictably did. And now it's kind of up to Bitcoin as to whether it's going to start to climb back up to 70K or range in 65K land or even potentially fall back to below 60. I'm hearing a lot of calls for 55K lately, so the bearish voices are getting a bit louder.
Interesting, interesting. Shall we look at some charts to see what's actually going on?
Sure. Let me know if you can see my screen okay.
Yep, coming on. There we go. Looking
Yeah,
good.
so this is the last 30 days of performance. You can see outside of a few exceptions like Notcoin and Let, which are up respectively about 165% each. Most of the rest of the markets are down. We see Bitcoin here down about 9% over the past month, Ethereum down a little less, about 3.4%. So that's actually a rarity that where you're seeing Ethereum performing better than Bitcoin for, I think, the first one of the first months all year long, if not the first. And then you have a few that have really dropped a lot, like Internet Computer down 39% now. Optimism, Immutable X down significantly as well. So there are some big decliners over the past month, and it's kind of, we're quickly finding out who the people were that were hanging on to Bitcoin versus some of these altcoins because the latter are really frustrated right now with the declining market caps and their portfolios shrinking.
Yeah, yeah. It's, yeah, yeah. It's well, I suppose if you kind of zoom out a little and you look back at where we came from, you would still see that it's actually still up a fair bit from from when the I guess the bull run started.
Yeah, I mean, Bitcoin still looks great overall. We look at December 2022. This
Hmm.
was right after the FTX collapse that happened in early November, and
Yeah,
prices were still like the 16Ks here. So,
yeah,
just if I hold down shift and drag to the right, Bitcoin's about 4x since that point. which is amazing. But it's even just 3 months since the all-time high, where we haven't climbed higher, traders get
Mhm.
impatient because a lot of them bought around here or even way back here. So now it's kind of wait and see time, and what we can explore on today's call is whether the crowd is getting too fearful, which would be a good sign. That would mean that we're likely to see a bounce to wreck some shorts and things like that, or
Mhm.
whether they're still optimistic, which would be a bad thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Let's have a look at that.
Yeah, I mean, while we're here, beginning with whales, we can see that the 10 plus Bitcoin wallets. So this is kind of just sharks and above. It includes like big exchange addresses, of course. So there are a lot of addresses that kind of get mixed into this that may not move their coins much with reason, other than to provide liquidity. But regardless, you can see that the amount of Bitcoin held by 10 plus BTC wallets is back up to where it was 2 years ago now. It took a long journey where they dropped throughout 2022, particularly here around the FTX collapse. And then as the dust settled at the beginning of 2023, you started to see a gradual climb and then a very aggressive climb beginning in 2024. And
Mhm.
it really hasn't stopped too much. There were a few kind of pauses here in April while Bitcoin was declining, but they really started to accumulate after Bitcoin got down to about 60K or a little below 60K here. And they've been adding ever since. So just since May 1st, they've added, it looks like about 25.7K more Bitcoin to their collective wallets. That's a pretty good sign.
Yeah. 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 Definitely a good sign.
And then moving on to the crowd mood at the moment. So we talked about mentions of buy or buying during one of our pieces of content earlier this week. And I wanted to show kind of just a 3 month scale. And you can see how since the all time high that happened just before this date on March 14th, it's just
Mhm.
been declining interest in buying overall. And you can see that it's kind of universal, especially on Reddit. It's really tailed off significantly.
Mhm.
Twitter/X, same thing. And then
Mhm.
4chan, Bitcoin Talk, and Telegram, they're kind of flat. So this is a good sign that the crowd has become much less optimistic and they're starting to show some signs of FUD. And we can check that out as well if we look at something known as weighted sentiment right here. So this is just a
Oh.
weekly level of sentiment overall, where anything above the zero axis right here means they're a little more positive or euphoric compared to usual. Anything below means they're showing some doubt and fear. And what do you
Yep.
know? Ever since late May, we're on 4 weeks now where it's just been extremely negative as people have gotten very impatient. So that's a very good sign.
I like this chart. Yeah, it's good.
It's pretty cool, right? I mean, we
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
haven't seen this
Absolutely.
level of negativity in a very long time. We'd have to
Yeah.
go back to. I mean, it gets skewed here because this is when the Twitter API changes were made after Elon Musk took over. So this gets skewed. But I see, one moment here in November of 2023 is the only other time where we
Yep.
were really in the same ballpark in terms of negativity. And
Yep.
obviously, prices blasted off from that point.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
What we don't
That's a
want to
great
see is
sign.
something like this at the beginning of January. This was right before the ETFs were approved. So everyone was like, Bitcoin never should have climbed this far. Everyone's too optimistic about the ETFs. And then all of a sudden, right here, ETFs get announced and we go through the roof until the crowd becomes euphoric again. And that's when we hit that all time high.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
crazy how that works.
Yeah. 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 Absolutely. What's interesting? It's always interesting. I mean, crypto aside, even if you look at retail investors psychology for even just stocks, right? It's interesting because they always like to chase the pump, and then so they end up buying the high and then selling the low, because then they get scared when it comes down, and then they'll wait, and then they'll get to the point where that's it, I give up, and then they sell, which goes against the whole buy low, sell high strategy. And most retail investors end up buying high and selling low because they can't control their emotions.
Mm-hmm. Exactly right. Yeah, it's an
Yeah.
emotional
Yeah.
game, and when you see such big swings, it's very easy to make the wrong choices.
Absolutely. Yeah. Wow.
So we can also just look at how some of the points of interest have fluctuated over time. You can see right now, meme coins, they're starting to get a little bit more interest. Layer twos, pretty little. AI tokens, a little bit more because they had a big day today. GameFi, nothing really special going on there, but you can see what a big piece of the social interest it's had since the beginning of the year. Layer ones, not too much interest. Stable coins, not really anything special. And then big time increases in Ethereum interest as of late. You can see this was when the ETFs were approved. So lots of huge social volume spikes there. And then after calming down, it's really starting to heat up again as the
Yeah.
SEC just recently declared that they're not going to pursue Ethereum further as a security. So that was a celebratory piece of news that came out a little over 24 hours ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
NFTs, FTX, bear market, airdrop, these are all pretty neutral, but it's really all about Ethereum and AI tokens right now that seem to be gaining some traction at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That's interesting.
And you may have seen Martin Shkreli in the news with the DJT, Donald J. Trump token. So he's been back in controversy and he's being talked about a lot. I'm not really seeing him as a bottom indicator or anything just yet, but he does occasionally get in the news for usually notorious reasons, and that can be interesting. If we look at DJT by itself, the new token, there's not really anything going on here. If I just zoom in, no, not really anything. So I know it's out there, but it might be too early for us to track.
Okay.
And as far as trending coins, I would expect DJT and Ethereum, and they're number 1 and 2 right now. So Ethereum, of course, being in the news for positive reasons because the SEC decided to drop its investigation as to whether Ethereum is a security, which led to a rise in ETH price. And this may have a lot to do with why altcoins got this temporary rebound today.
Yeah. Yeah.
You got DJT, Lido, GCR, Pendle, Stellar's in the news, interestingly, Wample, FET, OL, and Base to round out the top 10. So if you're holding any of those coins or you're interested in holding those coins, understand that while they're under the microscope of the crowd, they're likely to see extra volatility compared to usual.
It's interesting that that the SEC, who was pursuing Ethereum as a security, has decided to drop the case. That's quite a turnaround, isn't it?
Yeah, it was sort of unexpected, but
Yeah.
they must have their reasons.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Sometimes they just have bigger and better things to worry about.
Pretty sure they do. That's awesome. Yeah. So overall, the market seems kind of sideways right now, or a little bit down,
Right.
doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Are there any indicators that show that that we're oh, maybe we could take a look at the the daily active addresses.
So the address activity is declining.
Yeah.
It's been moving
Yeah.
down for the past 3.5 months or so. So that is a bit of a concern. We want to see over time the utility of Bitcoin rising. no matter what kind of cryptocurrency you're into, you're rooting for Bitcoin to see more utility over time and not less. So we are moving in the wrong direction right here. Um, MVRV, which is one of the core metrics that we always keep a close eye on, it does show that traders on the shorter term are underwater, which is actually a good sign. If you were to buy in right now, you'd be doing so with less risk than usual, according to average traders being down a little over 4% at this time. On the other hand, the long-term traders who have been active in the past 365 days, they're still up about 21%. So ideally, we want to get back to something like here where they're both below or very close to below 0%. So kind of a mixed bag there. I still, am worried about this teal line being quite so high. We would want to ideally see average traders on the long term getting close to neutral or even underwater again.
Yeah, okay.
I also noticed that on the funding rate side, there are some shorts that are coming in, especially for Cardano and XRP, and we posted about that earlier today. So these shorts here indicate that people are actually trying to bet against Bitcoin and profit based on its decline. That would be a good sign if we continue to see heavy shorts coming in, because those shorts are primed to get liquidated. Anytime there's an extreme in either direction, they're primed to get liquidated, and the price moves the opposite direction with, in this case, shorts acting as rocket fuel to allow prices to go higher. So if we see a little more consistency with these, or even like an extreme short like we saw back on the 15th, that would be a very good sign.
It's interesting.
Whale transactions, not too much here. It seems like the whales have kind of just been cruising along. As we saw earlier, they are still accumulating over the past couple of months, so that is a good sign. Mean dollar invested age, so it does show that there's some dormant movement. Let me maximize this a little bit.
Okay.
So this yellow line, we're rooting for it to go down constantly because it indicates that the average age of coins sitting in wallets is continuing to dip over time. Right now, we're seeing it start to rise once again. This was due to the Mt. Gox trustee moving a bunch of coins, billions of dollars back in late May. That's the only reason why that occurred. But the line really started to flatten out shortly after the all-time high hit at the beginning of April. So this was a clear indicator we were in a bull run from mid-October all the way until early April. After this line started to go up again, it meant that those whales are finally done moving those, old aging coins that had just been sitting and adding circulation back into the main supply. So now we're at this point where we could potentially start to creep up again, and that would be a sign that we're getting stagnant. So as you can see, a few more bad signs than good right now. Supply and exchange is moving down. That's a good sign. We don't want to see the supply moving through exchanges. That would indicate, a big sell-off might be planned. But yeah, it's kind of not the best picture at the moment for the technical traders out there. The RSI is showing 41, which is good. Anything below 50, which is right here, that indicates that we're in a better than average moment where we could see a bounce, and that's probably because we've been declining pretty aggressively the last couple of weeks. And this, alternatively, was a sign that we were very close to a top. So you want to see the RSI staying low like this. But yeah, a few more bearish signs than bullish signs, which I know people don't want to hear. Crazy things have happened though, and we've seen rebounds after, moments that have looked pretty dismal before. And this could be no exception. It depends if something triggers it, really.
Yeah. Well, I think considering the the bull run that we've had, it's always nice to have a bit of a pause, a bit of a bit of a cool down,
Hmm.
and we'll see where it goes after this.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, the impatient holders are starting to get shaken out here, and that's usually necessary for rises to continue. There
Yes,
needs to be an equal amount of sellers as buyers in order for prices to continue rising.
absolutely.
And you can see here, comparing to the equities markets where the S&P 500 has continued to test those new all-time highs, it's actually been going the opposite direction of crypto, which is rare. You can see
Hmm.
that the S&P was actually off today for a U.S. holiday, but
Hmm.
overall, it's at that all-time high level, while Bitcoin has really struggled, especially if we look to its, top. I guess we could call this the top back on June 7th. Bitcoin is down about a little over 9%, while the S&P is up 2.5%. So the correlation between the two is very minimal.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry, Brian, you mentioned it's a U.S. holiday today.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, well, thanks for coming on. Appreciate you taking time out to
Oh, no
jump
worries.
on
I
during the
We're a
holiday. Yeah.
global company at Santiment, so I generally, unless it's a major holiday, I'm still working. So I'm always happy to be here with you, Andy.
Nah, thank you. Thank you. Really appreciate it. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Look, I guess overall, there's been, I guess the markets, sorry, crypto markets have declined a little. Um, I, because looking at it from a medium to longer term perspective, from my end, it's, I think, um, adoption, um, from the institutions, or access to adoption from the institutions are slowly coming up. With the introductions of the ETFs, not only in the U.S. but then Hong Kong, Australia, Thailand. I think slowly more and more corporates or institutions are warming up to the idea of adding a bit of Bitcoin onto the balance sheet. And so I think it'll happen over time, from a medium to longer term perspective. And in the meantime, I guess markets just having a bit of a cooling down period.
Yeah, it appears so. And we're just going to have to see how things play out. I think there's an argument where Bitcoin and altcoins can decline a bit more. I know today was a pretty decent rebound day for a lot of non-Bitcoin assets out there, but I wouldn't be surprised if we spend another couple of weeks kind of chopping and potentially sliding a bit more until
Hmm.
traders become very impatient, and start spewing bearish sentiment all over the place. And that's the sign that we're finally at that bottom again.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Cool, cool. Um, yeah, I guess I guess we're almost on time. Do you have any last or any thoughts you want to share about the
No, I
market?
can't think of anything else. We covered uh, a bunch of different aspects of the markets, and I think when we revisit this in mid-July, we'll really be able to understand how accurate these metrics were. Usually they are, but anything can
Yes.
happen. And I recommend that anyone who is interested in Santiment, check out a free trial. Just go to app.santiment.net/pricing, open a free trial. If you want to purchase a month after you enjoyed the trial for 2 weeks, type in EquitiesTracker at checkout and you get 25% off.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's a really really cool site. It contains so much information. you yeah, you'll be amazed at how much information there is on the site, especially if you're into data, if you're into analysis, if you're into on-chain analytics, sentiment analysis, absolutely recommend it.
Thank
Yeah.
you for the kind words, Andy. It's always nice
Uh,
to show off our metrics to you and your community. So thanks again.
Always, always. I think what we try to do is expose the community to, bite size on-chain analytics. It's not easy, but once you figure a few things out, then you kind of figure out more. It really does. You realize that there's a lot of transparency in terms of seeing where movements are, what's happening, what's actually happening. And to be honest, like we're from the TradFi space, and it's a lot more transparent than TradFi, right? Yeah, yeah. So it's great. Well, Brian, thank you so much for jumping on during the holiday. Really appreciate it. Always great to see you.
Likewise, man.
Yeah,
Thanks for having me.
yeah, yeah. Have a nice evening and enjoy. Have a good one.
Enjoy your morning, my friend. Take care,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.